Well, hi everybody again, and we've come to the final and maybe the best part of the day's symposium, and that's the student BIPOC panel. And I'm going to be turning it over to Maggie Cathmaroon, who's the coordinator for Women's and Gender Studies, and wish everybody well. And thank you for attending. And congratulations again, John McMahon, Marlene Grossman, Naomi Kramer. At the height today, we had over 300 people listening in. It was something. And I want to leave all you bright, shining young faces with this thought. If we care about racism and we care about justice, try to remember this is a Remembrance Week and it's Veterans Week. And a lot of municipalities, a lot of organizations have canceled their Remembrance Day celebrations. So you know what? Don't worry so much about COVID. Go out, take a walk, go to your local cenotaph and lay a flower. Thank you all.
Hi, Beryl. I just wanted to thank you for all your hard work today, for doing such a great job moderating this entire day. We appreciate your time, and you've done an amazing job.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Now I know how it felt to be on Jerry Lewis's telethon.
Just quickly, Marlene, I just reiterate that Beryl, a fantastic job as usual and as expected. Well done.
Thank you, brother. Take care.
Thanks again. Maggie, you're up.
All right, well, this is fun. I'm really sorry that we weren't able to start with ABBA, but maybe we can end with ABBA, who knows. Again, as Beryl said, welcome to the very last session of this great symposium on racism and justice. And given the events that are going on in the world, I'm not going to be specific, but these are incredibly important conversations because we're probably going to have to get better at them, do them more often, and be more profound with our thinking with them. This, as Beryl said, is the BIPOC student panel. And I have had such a great time spending more time with students that I already know and getting to know graduates from Vanier. And we've had some great conversations and we hope to share the very best of it with you today. Before we start, I do want to do just a quick introduction of everybody that is participating today. So as Beryl said, my name is Maggie Cathmaroon. I'm a humanities teacher as well as the coordinator of Women and Gender Studies here at Vanier College. I say here, but I'm not actually there. It's weird. I don't know what order. I'm going to go with the order that I see you. Okay, so this is, I'm not playing favorites. Okay, Issa graduated from Vanier in 2016 and he's currently completing his law degree at Université de Montréal. Kat Louis graduated in the same year. She's currently working on her degree in creative arts therapy at Concordia. Maya is currently a student at Vanier, and we've worked together before, also an Indigenous Studies student as well, currently studying social sciences. Angel is also a student. We've also worked on a couple of projects, interesting projects at Vanier, and she's also in social sciences. All right, so we decided that what we were going to be concentrating on today is conveying their impressions of what it's like to be a BIPOC student within an institution, within an educational institution. And I gave them 3 questions to consider, and we're going to go with those 3 questions. The questions were designed based on what I usually do when I have students evaluate another student's thing. And I usually ask them to say something positive, to be critical, and then to give something that gives us hope for the future. So we're going to start with the positive, and I'm going to ask each panelist to indicate something that an educational institution has done for them that has been positive. So who would like to start? Binta, you go.
I think I'll start because actually we were discussing earlier, me and the others, and we had such a hard time to, think of something positive that an institution actually did for us as racialized students. and we went more in the direction of sense of belonging here in the institution and in Quebec in general. And so I don't know if I'm just gonna go since I already started talking. But in terms of sense of belonging, I guess it's no surprise that I don't necessarily feel that I belong here in Quebec as a Black Muslim woman. You know, with, you know, you have scholars fighting for their rights to say the N-word. You have so many things that happen, especially in 2020. So I don't necessarily feel like I belong here, and it has nothing to do with the fact that I am an immigrant. I was born in Africa, but I came here very young. And Montreal is my home, basically, but I've never felt like I belonged here because people always reminded me that I was, you know, a stranger here and I was not Québécois de souche. So I guess I'm gonna let the others.
So Angel and then Maya.
So only one good time, I can only think of one time throughout my entire educational career that a good thing has happened, but is not really a good thing. So in high school, I was called a slur, repeatedly called a slur from World War II, Jap, directed towards Japanese. First of all, wrong Asian. I'm Vietnamese, but I like to say that I'm ambiguously Asian looking because unfortunately people can't tell the difference. And it's such an outdated insult, and I repeatedly told them, hey, can you stop? And I eventually got so fed up that I went to my counselor, and the person was supposed to get suspended for 2 weeks, I believe, which I find is like better than nothing. But then their mom called in, and my counselor wasn't there, unfortunately, and their punishment got reduced to 1 day of in-school suspension, which was very much like a tap on the wrist, a slap on the wrist for me. And it especially stinged because his mother said, oh, it was just a joke. It may have been a joke, but a joke in theory is supposed to be humorous on both ends. I didn't find that funny on my behalf. There's nothing funny with calling me a slur. Am I supposed to be like, haha, yeah, and play along with the model minority myth? That was the only one good time, but it wasn't necessarily the best.
Maya?
So I, like in the past few weeks, we've had a while to think about these. And I think it says a lot that I've only been able to come up with 3 by literally 5 minutes ago. And at the same time, you know, as the girls have said, the bar is really low. So they're not necessarily positive. They're only positive because I've had worst experiences in that, and I had to write them down in case I forgot them. So one positive experience, the first one was when I was in primary school. I remember we had this one teacher while we were learning about ethics and religion and all that. She decided that it would be a good idea for a Muslim student, or the Muslim students in the class, to explain their religion, you know, to the rest of the class. In a sense, it's slightly, like, I felt slightly uncomfortable with being put on the spot while other people from different cultures weren't. And for me as a 9-year-old to have to explain my religion to the whole class was kind of uncomfortable, but at the same time, I was happy at the time that she gave me that opportunity to you know, explain it myself and not have somebody else taint the religion with, well, taint it, to like kind of explain it from their views with all the prejudice that people have. So in a sense, that was a positive experience. Another one, let me just check my phone. In high school, again, this one's not really positive either. We had this one teacher, our history teacher that I remember, most students were very close to because he was always very nice and very understanding. And so there was this one time, I don't remember if it was, we were talking about elections coming up or something, where he says, or protests, I don't remember, it was one of both, where he goes, you know, all of us as Canadians from Quebec, and the whole class just went like, wait, what? And he goes, well, aren't you born here? I was like, yes, like, then you are Canadian. And to have that, just that experience of a teacher acknowledge that we are still Canadian, even though, you know, our parents might be immigrants, or because we don't look like, as Binta said, the Québécois de souche, doesn't take away from our identity. And as people who have had to fight for that our whole life, our whole class was just like social, because I went to high school in Côte-des-Neiges where the minority was really white Canadians. It was not something we were used to, and the whole class, we just like all stopped and looked at each other and we're like, that's a weird feeling. The last one, again, in the context of that school, there was this counselor who was very understanding of our differences. And again, at the time, I guess I took it for granted a lot because I was just like, that's a counselor, I guess that's their job. But then I switched schools and I was in Vanier and I met somebody else, and, you know, I realized that, you know, that knowledge and that acceptance of differences is not something that everybody has. So I guess now that I look back at that, my experience with that counselor, I feel very lucky, and it definitely is a really good experience to have had that, because now that I'm out of high school, I really took that for granted, because now that I'm not there, it's like all of a sudden you don't have that same support system anymore. So yeah.
Issa, go for it.
Thank you for the three of you so far. What I would add maybe is that I feel like oftentimes it's up to people of color to make those experiences positive. And oftentimes, not all the time, because one great initiative that Vanier has is, for example, the Gender and Women Studies major that I was fortunate enough to do. So I say oftentimes because there's a lot of good initiatives, but there's still a lot of work to do. And often the institution in of itself is not made for people of color. And for example, when I was at Vanier, I was part of the VCSA for 2 years, and we did a lot of initiatives, and I know I'm pretty sure they still do initiatives to help students in all areas. But for example, I felt like there was a lack of understanding about LGBTQ people. So I did a week of activities where we had different panelists, a carnival, and Kat, her and I were in the same student body. So I don't know if that week is still happening. I know it happened for weeks after. But again, it's just an example to say that it's up to us oftentimes to put in initiatives, to fight, to make our voices heard, to make people understand that your role to play, people none of color, is not the same that our role to play, and our role is needed in discussions. And sometimes people of color should understand, in my opinion, that the best thing you could do is to listen and be a facilitator than taking too much space in the conversation and trying to say or think of what's best for us. I could tell you what's best for us, and we can work together to make it happen. So maybe that's my 2 cents. And Kat, I don't know if you would like to add anything.
I resonate with a lot of what everyone has said in terms of like positive experiences and them being very sparse and few in between. Personally, I'm Haitian American and Canadian, so I came here in my adolescence, so I was kind of like, I wasn't really trying to feel Canadian, but it was clear that I wasn't as soon as I started trying to like integrate or like be in the student body. So I feel like when I got into institutions like Vanier, I wasn't really looking for positive experiences because like I was trying to like make it through and survive and like do what was best for me. So it wasn't like, that wasn't an expectation that I had because it was never something that had been offered to me. So my positive experiences were just finding community by joining student unions, finding community within the Black community at Vanier, and just finding my people and finding people who understand me were my positive experiences. And like Issa said, you know, it's often up to us to find those positive experiences. And my positive experience was just being around people who understood why I was maybe drained after a class when a professor confused me with another Black student in the class because apparently we look the same. And that was it for me.
Thank you, Kat. Yeah, it's sort of, these are things that bubbled up in our conversations in preparing for this. And I think the two takeaways so far from what you've said, and I think Angel first said this, is that the bar is pretty low. Just basic civility and respect can actually go a long way in creating an environment, but clearly we need to go beyond that. And what you raised, Issa, in terms of the burden on the BIPOC community within any educational institution, the labor, often emotional labor, as we're seeing here, is yours to assume I think we probably need to get better, which leads us into the next question to consider is, well, what needs to change? So who would like to begin there? Maya.
I think there's definitely a lot that needs to change, and I think we're definitely seeing that with the protests and everything that's going on in the world right now. But I think if we're really focusing on the educational system, I think one important thing that I think some teachers need to understand is that, you know, everybody's reality is different. You know, just because you are a cis white man and, you know, things are a certain way for you, don't mean that they apply to me as, you know, a bisexual Arabic woman. You know, that it does not work the same way. Obviously acknowledge your privilege, and I'm not saying that, you know, I don't have my own privileges, because I'm definitely a lot more privileged than some of my darker friends, you know, because I come from Africa, and I've definitely, colorism is definitely an issue, and I'm on the fairer end of the scale in a sense, I guess. And so I have advantages clearly that other people don't. They've experienced things that I don't either. But, you know, you have to acknowledge that and try not to force your reality onto other people, because I feel like one thing that I've heard one too many times is the sentence, for example, let's say I'm having issues with my parents. It's like, you know, they can't force you, you know, this is Canada, you have rights. I know, I also have a culture that is not like yours, you know, and it may, you know, you might find it okay to just move out, or it might be easy to just move out of your parents' home. You're gonna be fine. It doesn't have, you know, the same meaning to me, because, you know, different cultures, different beliefs and all that. I'm not necessarily saying that one is right and one is wrong. I'm just saying, you know, acknowledge that everybody is living a different reality. Everybody is different. Just keep that in mind, and stop assuming that's just because something is easy for you that it is easy or it's the same for everybody else. That's one of the main points that I want to say.
Thank you, Maya. Yeah, go on, Angel.
There's a lot that needs to be changed, of course, but place where we can start is our educational systems. They need to listen more to the students and recognize their voices and not brush off their problems as mere over exaggerations, like slurs. For oftentimes schools tout, we love diversity, look how diverse we are, and then you have like the picture, the poster with like the free token minorities on the top, and they're all smiling and they're all happy, but at the same time they refuse to acknowledge those voices when they go to them saying, hey, this teacher's being a little culturally insensitive. Like I had a teacher that referred to Asian people as Orientals, which is a very outdated term. And stuff like that. Listen to the students and recognize that their problems aren't over exaggerations, because oftentimes we're seen as being dramatic, as overblowing things, when after years and years of being confused for other students, we have a right to feel uncomfortable. We have a right to feel outraged after dealing with systemic racism our entire lives. Just because this is a blip for you doesn't mean it is a blip for me. I've been mistaken for so many Asian students just because I'm ambiguously Asian. I used to sit next to this Asian girl and I wore glasses in class, and she was mixed. She looked Puerto Rican, she was half Chinese. But since her name was more Asian than mine, I'm Angelique and she's Megan Chan, they would think that I'm Megan Chan and not Angelique. There was a bias in my name. They biased my name as a French person, even though I have a very Asian last name Chu. And for some reason, my teacher would keep confusing us. Even though we all have distinct styles, distinct looks. I'm very pale for a Southeast Asian. And there's a lot of colorism as well that goes in our community, but still just because we're both Asian does not give you the right to just say, aren't you guys all the same? The amount of times that I've been told, do you speak Chinese? And how many times people assume so many things in an educational standpoint and believe that I'm also an international student just because I'm Asian, but they don't assume that the Swedish girl or the German girl isn't an international student just because she is Caucasian and I am not, happens so many times to me.
Go for it, Binta.
I'd like to say first, I was lucky enough to be part of 2 research projects here at Bunny. So I guess that's a positive experience that, the institution allowed me to have too. And, we wrote an open letter to Bunny to ask for systemic change to fight systemic racism within the institution. So I think being part of those projects allowed me to meet women. A little shout out to Nosheen, Labiba, and Rachel, and to make change. So, but I think what needs to change is that first, I feel like institutions need to understand, acknowledge that racism is not necessarily an issue of values and an issue of whether or not you're a good person. And I feel like as long as we don't acknowledge how harmful and violent racism is to students, and the daily microaggressions Black students, Asian students, and BIPOCs in general have and receive, is something that is very violent. And as a student of color, you don't need to have necessarily a PhD to understand how representation works and how it can affect, developing children and how it can affect your self-esteem. So, growing up, we don't see Black people on TV having, good roles. You see Black people being gangsters, Black people being killed for just being Black, and I feel that has a lot of impact on how you see yourself. And just that, not growing up seeing yourself being that, is a privilege within itself. So I would just say that I feel like, when we speak about racism, institutions are often like, we're all equal. There's no laws or policies that necessarily discriminate you. But the fact is that when you're a person of color, you don't grow up the same that if you were white, you know what I mean? So this is a huge disadvantage, and I feel like it's not acknowledged enough, and our feelings and our experiences are just like invalidated a lot with which is violent also in a sense. So I would just say that institutions need to amplify the voices because often we're not heard. And yeah, so that would be my my main thing to change. But also, I feel like institutions should not feel like they're doing us a favor when they hear us. It's not a favor you're doing to me. It's basic human rights. It's basic, like, I deserve to feel the same way as, the white girl next door. You know what I mean? And I deserve every opportunity that I have. So you're not doing me a favor by listening to me and like amplifying my voice. You're just, correcting centuries of systemic racism and centuries of oppression, which is the right thing to do, So, yeah, that's all for me.
Yeah, Binta, well said. And I just, before I turn it over to Kat or whoever wants to talk next, I just wanted to indicate that the open letter that Binta, as well as other students wrote, is linked in the chat if you want to have a look at it. And perhaps we certainly have time to return to maybe some of the issues raised in it if you wish. Okay, so it's there. So who would like to go next? Go for it, Isa.
So thank you. And Binta, if I could go off of what you said, I think something that I would like to reiterate is the role that you play in a discussion, in a position, whatever it is. One thing that I would encourage is if you're not part of that visible minority, if you're not part of that systemic struggle, ask people who are and be a facilitator. And something that needs to change, in my opinion, is having more people of color and women and people who are misrepresented in positions of power. But the issue is that and that's from my experiences, as I grew and went to higher education, the less people of color I saw. And I have to highlight that my experience at Vani has been nothing but amazing. Like I cherish my 2 years so much. And I was exposed to a lot of diversity at Vanier. And when I got to law school at the university level, I had like an opposite, like a culture shock, but like opposite. I was surrounded by so little diversity that I was shocked because all my life from high school to college, I was exposed to different realities. So as an institution, as a system, we need to do better by having more people of color and people who are marginalized, give them an easier access to higher education because our reality is different than a lot of people. And for those who are in positions of power, I encourage you as much as I can to listen. And as they said, you're not doing us a favor by listening, and be a facilitator, and don't think that you know what's best for us. You can have your opinion and we can work together, because this whole thing is to work together, but to be a facilitator more than telling me if what you're doing is okay. Ask me what needs to be done and we can work together. That's just my 2 cents.
Thanks, Isa. Go for it, Kat.
Hi. Hi, everybody. So to answer what I think should change, I'm an artist and a creative arts therapist, so I communicate in metaphors. So if you could just bear with me for a second, I would like for everyone on the panel and everyone who's watching to close your eyes, okay? Listen to my voice. I'm gonna offer you a little experience so you can kind of understand my perspective. Put your fist on your chest, any hand that you want, put your fist on your chest, and every time I say tap, I want you to tap on your chest, okay? All right, I want you to imagine that you're a Haitian immigrant. You got here, your parents don't have a lot of money. So when you finally get to CEGEP and you finally get into the science program, everybody's counting on you. Everybody's counting on you and you're proud, but it's also a lot of pressure. So you have to work. You have to work long hours at night after your classes, tap on your chest. You get into class and one of your professors wants to teach the class about the history of the N-word in the States, but decides to say the N-word in class with other Black students in class, tap on your chest. You go to your science class and your science teacher sees two other Black students in the classes and they think that you all look the same. So they call you Theodore when your name is Kat because you're one of the 3 Black students in class, tap on your chest. After school, you have an exam the next day, but you have a night shift because your paycheck pays for the light bill. Tap on your chest. You don't get a lot of sleep that night. You wake up, you go to your exam. And your teacher, when he hands you your exam, says your name wrong. Tap on your chest. Open your eyes. All of those taps on your chest, if they were to be one tap at the same time, would be the systemic pressure that I felt when I was at Vanier that I could not acknowledge because I did not have the knowledge. Not all Black people are born out the womb educated about all the racism issues. I didn't know. And so I feel like what really would have needed to change is for teachers and educators to understand that they are part of a system. Just because you're a teacher and you existing in your class doesn't mean that your student doesn't have the world to face when they leave your class. And you can be somebody that allows that person to have more confidence to advocate for themselves. Because like I said, not all racialized students are born out the womb educated about racism. And so what I think needs to change is that, because once I went to McGill, and like Issa says, the culture shock once you get to university is real. Like the level of systemic oppression at the level of university compared to CEGEP is a stark change. That is something like the amount of change that needs to occur on that campus is gonna take centuries. So you as teachers in CEGEPs, you have more power because we just came out of high school. We fresh out the box. We are so ready to receive support in order to be able to better advocate for ourselves in those spaces. Because let me tell you, if I had had more teachers at Vanier that saw me in my difference and acknowledged that maybe I won't be able to hand assignments on times because I have 2 jobs to help my mom pay the bills, because we don't have the same opulence in wealth as you do, it would have allowed me to better advocate for myself once I got to the university level, because I would understand that I am worthy of advocacy. And so that's what I think needs to change. Thank you.
It was so powerful, by the way. I just want to say that. Thank you so much, Kat.
Yeah, that was very, 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 very evocative. Absolutely.
I love you.
I want to keep the conversation open to panelists if they want to continue to talk about issues related to change. So I mean, so many of the things that you all teased out began with demanding that institutions and individuals within that institution understand that everyone's reality is different. Something that I know that we all struggle with, particularly the more privilege that we have. The notion of listening, of truly listening. And of course, this is an issue that comes up with other issues as well when it comes to sexual violence, for example, right? You know, demanding that victims be believed. It's the same thing. Binta, Angel, of course, talking about when things are seen as being overblown, or it can't hurt you that much, you know, that is, again, is a lesson that really needs to be learned. And Binta, your classic quote, you're not doing us a favor if you're just hearing us, right? There needs to be more than that. Yeah, so those, I mean, so, and you've also raised issues related to representation, and whether it's representation on the campus itself or representation in society as a whole. Like, you know, everything kind of like lets you down in that respect, for sure. So I'm wondering if you want to delve, because we have a little bit of time in this section, to delve into the issue of allyship. Right? So if we're naming these problems, and if we're asking for more commitment and energy among the entire community, I can see Binta smiling already, because I got this. This is not my idea. This is the idea that comes from having discussions with these brilliant people. So if you want to address the issue of allyship, I think that would be a very interesting conversation for us to have. Binta, you go, girl.
Thank you, Maggie. If there's one thing that 2020 taught me, is that allyship is like the biggest scam of history, honestly. Because I feel like sometimes people will take on the role as allies, and because of that, you cannot correct them. I'm an ally to the Black community, so I'm not racist. You cannot tell me anything. But this is not the reality. This is not. And first of all, who told you you were an ally? And I feel like it's just a big word that sometimes people would take, you know, take the title of allyship. Hey, by the way, I'm an ally, but it doesn't really mean anything. Are you actively anti-racist? Are you actively working and doing your readings and amplifying the voices of the community you say you're an ally to? And it's also often, when we speak about allyship, those allies will often take on a lot of space in those communities. So instead of me as a person of color talking about my experiences, you will have a white person saying, yeah, it's so awful, we shouldn't say the N-word. But we've been saying that. Black people said that, you know, years ago, but nobody listened to us. So I feel like often when a person of color or a minority would say something, it will not matter until a white person says the same thing, and that it's going to be revolutionary, you know. Oh, wow, it's so amazing, you're so understanding, you're so woke. But if you had listened to that community like years ago, centuries ago maybe, you would have got the message, you know. So I feel like we really have to be careful when we talk about allies. Sorry, I'm seeing Leila. We really have to be careful when we talk about allyship. Even I used to claim myself an ally to like the LGBTQ community, but you know, I took a step back and really asked myself, Binta, what are you actually doing to amplify the voices of those communities? You know, so I feel like it's a big title, and we should not, you know, just say it to say it because, you know, it's trendy or whatever. So yeah, that's my take on allyship.
Kat, you go.
Yes, everything. Yes. I just wanted to Yes. But yes, Vinta. But like, in all seriousness, for me, when allyship is always like a tricky subject, because like I feel like allyship and white guilt are very tied together. You know, sometimes, yes, sometimes I feel like it's like the claiming of allyship is to disguise the guilt and to not address it. But there's an amazing book that I will link in the chat later that I feel like all people should read, because it addresses the fact that like white guilt needs to be addressed by white people. And I'm going to talk about white people because like in my head as a Black person, when I think of ally, that's who I'm thinking of.
Mhm.
And I feel like there needs to be a sitting with the discomfort and like just sit with it. It's not gonna do nothing to you. It don't bite. Listen, hey, sit. I'm serious. I'm serious, because I think it's just it scares people. You know, as a therapist, as someone who studies psychology, I really do believe that it's something that's scary. But I feel like, would you rather be wrong and scared, or would you rather be helpful and scared? You know what I mean? Would you rather be helpful, acknowledge what is making you uncomfortable, work through it, and then get through it? You know what I mean? Because there's always something on the other side. And I feel that for me in 2020, that really needs to be it. Because this year, y'all, turn on your TV, look through social media, the world is a mess. It is time. Like, past due time. We are late. It is really time for us to have true allies, because as a Black person, I'm tired. It's a lot of work that I'm doing as a grassroots organizer. I'm gonna be a therapist soon, helping people heal from intergenerational trauma. I'm also a friend, community member. I'm doing a lot of work. I need help. So I really, 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 really need in 2020 for allyship to stop being a myth. I really need it to be true. I need people to work through their discomforts. And that means, like me, I need to work on my allyship as a cis person to trans people. We all need to work on the privileges that we have. And so we gotta sit with it. I gotta sit with my cis privilege. I gotta sit with my able-bodied privilege. We gotta sit with it and move through it so we can actually work for us. Because this year, y'all, no, I'm done with it. We need something to change, for real.
Thank you, Kat. Go for it, Angel.
So this is the tea. I got some tea. I have seen so much performative activism. I feel like to be an ally, you don't have to say, I'm an ally. I'm an ally. You don't have to say you're an ally. Be an ally. Just don't do it. Just don't say, do it. So like the performative activism of y'all using the model minority myth on Asians and then turning around to blame us for coronavirus, and then you guys consume our K-pop, our anime, and our boba while gatekeeping us from our own communities. Like years ago, these are the same people that would make fun of me for liking Hello Kitty in high school, and now all y'all want to be Sanrio bitches. Why is that? And you're trying to gatekeep it for my community when we created it. Bubble tea and anime saying you're not Asian enough. Boy, I am mostly Asian. The only dash of French I have comes from colonization. It's like how many times I'm afraid of being Asian in public now because of COVID. Sometimes when people stand too near me, I want to be like, I am Asian, cough, cough, stand away from me. But the performative activism I have seen with like the black square and white people trying to speak up on our behalf when they only have like 1%, 5% of the facts. And when we're trying to speak out about like the fox eye trend being harmful, and you guys try to speak out for us. I understand you want to do well, but please listen to us. We're trying to speak out, but you guys are muffling us when you try to speak out for us. And then when you just call cultural appropriation stuff that isn't, you're diminishing the truth and power behind our words. So it's kind of like calling wolf when we're trying to we've been doing this for years and years, and you guys will not listen to us or anything. With COVID-19, I have seen all this bullshit, this BS with the Asians. You guys say, oh yeah, I'm okay with Asians and you consume all our media, but at the same time, you go in Chinatown, there's vandalism. There's the vandalism that's been going on. People are getting attacked. When my uncle died earlier this year, it wasn't because of COVID-19. But the government says, this is an Asian man. We have to take away his body to do further examination. We know damn well he doesn't have COVID. The man hasn't been back to Vietnam in years. But you guys say he's an Asian person, he's Vietnamese, not even Chinese, but you want to check it out. With the black square, all these people that have been posting the black square and saying, you're racist if you don't post the black square. Yes, it's nice to post the black square. But what else are you doing? Are you informing yourself? Are you listening to Black people? Are you signing petitions? Or are you doing this out of white guilt? I have seen so many people being exposed on TikTok for posting the black square and then turning out to be Trump supporters and closet KKK racists. The performative nature of allyship is, I want to go out and protest. I can't, unfortunately, because my family is super immunocompromised. My brother is undergoing life-saving treatment at the Children's Hospital, which makes him immunocompromised. It has to do with a C word. And I can't go out. I don't want to risk my brother's life. And I don't want to be seen as less of an ally or an activist for that. I am fucking tired. I am so exhausted. I am burnt out trying to educate people. I'm only 19. I'm 19. I shouldn't have to be educating people that are in their 50s why calling me a chink is a bad thing. I am so tired. I am so tired. I am emotionally exhausted. And people want me to be, they keep saying, you're so strong, you're so brave. It's like, call out your own kind then. Call out your friends, call out your family. I can't be your Katniss Everdeen. I'm not Joan of Arc. I'm a 19-year-old with anxiety and depression who hates colonialism. What do you want me to do? Run around with bear spray and a Tim Hortons iced coffee? Iced coffee and caffeine is the only thing keeping me awake right now. I have a Coca-Cola addiction. I can't do this. I am so tired. I am so tired.
Here, I'm trying to hug you.
I'm not a hugger, but I'll
Okay,
accept it.
that's true. I forgot about that part.
I don't like people touching me.
actually do it. But Angel,
Sorry for that big rant full
think,
of expletives.
Well, what did you tell me? Like you told me that you're owning your anger, right?
Oh yeah, I'm tired of being the docile little Asian.
Yeah.
If I see somebody tell me you're so exotic, bitch, I'm from Florida. That's as exotic as I get. You want to see a redneck? I'll become the redneck, but that's as exotic as I am. I'm not exotic. I'm not your little China doll. I'm not quiet. I'm not submissive. Yeah, you call me ghetto or whatever. It's called I have an opinion and I have ambitions. I'm sorry that you're not used to people being outspoken. It's just, I'm not a stereotype. I'm angry. This is what colonization and the angry ghosts of my ancestors have done to me.
I wanted to acknowledge everything that you said, and I want to underline the role that that youth plays in educating their elders in a very unfair manner. A lot of this does fall to young people, and yeah, no, you should not be going through this. No one should be going through this. Absolutely. We're unfortunately, we are running out of time. So the last question that I asked you to prepare for, I don't know that we're really going to get to, because I want to see if there are any comments or questions from the floor, but I'm going to let Isa say something before we go to questions for the remainder.
I just want to say a quick message, one for the teachers and one for the students. For the teachers specifically, I just want to say thank you for being here, for those who are here, and thank you for doing what you do. I just want you to know that when we talk about all these issues, people of color, we don't want you to think that all the burden is on you. All we're saying is that you have an important role to play in all this. So just know that you're not in it alone, and not everything relies on you. It's just that we try to sensibiliser, I keep forgetting that word, inform that you have a role to play. And for
Bring
students,
awareness.
bring awareness. Thank you, Kat. And for the students, I just want to highlight, because we spoke about higher education, for those who want to continue in higher education, you have your place in higher education. You have your place in anything you set your mind to. You might face more obstacles than your peers, but that's okay. And if I can use myself as example, my family and I immigrated from Jordan at the age of 2. My parents did not speak neither English nor French. I took 2 years off between college and university because I wanted to make sure I had enough money to pay for university. And I got into law school, which can be a competitive program to get into. And now I'm the president of the Student Association. All that to say that it was possible because I believed in myself, and whatever you set your mind, your mindset to, you could do it. We all of us did. We all have ambitions. You do too. So just never forget that and keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you, Isa. So I'm wondering if there are any questions or comments from the participants. There's many of you out there. I have the chat box open.
There's a Q&A box.
Yeah, there's
Oh, there's
few
a Q&A.
questions. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out.
Oh, okay, there it is. Okay. So the first, okay, well, one is a thank you. Okay, so, and I'll read that thoroughly later. So question on how can we be allies to neurodiverse, invisible disabilities or physical disabilities? You want to go for it, Angel?
Yeah, I feel like I'm diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder and depression and a panic disorder. I take meds for it. I'm not like, oh, I Googled it up, I'm diagnosed, I take meds. So I find that it's very much interconnected. My younger brother is very Asian looking as well. We call him a banana, as jokingly, but he is also, he's also on the autism spectrum. So a lot of the times in Asian culture, I find, in immigrant cultures sometimes, mental illness is not really a thing to us. It doesn't exist. My grandparents think that my mom just made up autism and it's bad parenting, but there's a lot of intersectionality. We can work together. There's a lot of overlap. Intersectionality, like there's like, I advocate for like racism, but I also advocate for the LGBTQ plus community and for the disabled community as well, because we all overlap. We all are struggling here. We are all marginalized groups that are being oppressed. So if we can end up working together, I feel like that we can harness our powers and be powerful and overthrow the government. Eat the rich.
Absolutely. I noticed, go for it, Kat.
I saw a question in the Q&A that I really want to answer.
Go for it.
Because I think I could help. This person says, I have a question. I'm a Chinese Canadian student and feel like I was raised with the idea of conforming to society. So whenever there's an event that occurs, I'm afraid to raise my voice. Any advice on how to change this? I don't confront people. Boo boo, I feel you. It's hard. It's so hard. I'm also someone who's non-confrontational, but I feel like at certain points you get to a place where you've experienced so many microaggressions, and you've experienced so many people not seeing you in your person and in your purpose and who you are as a soul, and not just as the body that you live in, that you just get fed up. So I just reached a point where, like, if I didn't speak up and tell someone that something made me uncomfortable, I felt like I was disrespecting myself. And I would just get so angry, and the anger would bubble up inside of me, and it would make me uncomfortable. And the thing that I'm learning about anger as an emotion, anger can be, when you feel it in your body and you really take time to understand it, it's almost like a self-disrespect alarm. Like your body is telling you like, what did they say to me? No, stop. I will not stand for this. And you may not want to like answer to it, but your body's like, you're hot, your chest is hot, and your body responds to it, right? So I feel that for me, I've just learned to be mindful of how something makes me feel in my body. And in the moment, my immediate response is often like, what I just heard made me uncomfortable. I'm gonna have to step away for a moment. Sometimes I step away and I'll have a conversation with the person afterwards. And I know that this takes a lot of courage, but all I can say is that it often comes with time. It often comes with time that you can end up being able to advocate for yourself. But in the end, it's often us that ends up advocating for ourselves, and not the other way around, which is unfortunate. But I would just say, just be patient with yourself and respect the feeling.
Binta? Maya?
I just want to say, and maybe answer another question about, an anonymous attendee said that as a first generation Canadian, he would like to know if it ever gets better. It doesn't, I'm sorry. It really doesn't, but that's okay. We're gonna destroy systems of oppression, so it's gonna get better eventually. But what I wanted to say, maybe add on what Kat said, is this is for any student of color or person of color, whether it's a teacher or not, or a student. Allow yourself to be angry, because this anger, even though it makes people uncomfortable, it is valid. Because I mean, oppression is so violent, and centuries of colonization, slavery, oppression, segregation, it will make you angry, and it's normal. And you have every right to be angry and show that anger. Because I feel like when we talk about activism, they always want you to be like so docile and like understanding, and you know what, slavery is over, so we should relax a little, but it shouldn't have happened in the first place. You know what I mean? So you have every right to be angry because you're not treated the same, and that anger is valid, and every emotion you feel is valid. So maybe that will help you to like, confront people in a sense. And I know it's hard to be comfortable with your feelings, especially me as a Black woman. I'm always like, portrayed as the angry Black woman, but the reality is I am the angry Black woman. I am angry. That's just facts. And
You have every reason to.
Yeah, exactly.
Go off, sis.
And someone also asked, what are the things we can do? And so I invite you guys to refer to the open letter we wrote to Vanya administration. But also I feel like it was, what we wrote was really like student centered. But I feel like also within like faculty, it's important to like acknowledge and amplify the voices of BIPOC teachers, because they are, not all teachers are white or whatever. So, and they have a unique experience within the institution as well. and it's important to hear them and let them take the space they need to take and organize the things they need to organize. And because honestly, what I learned, another thing I learned from 2020 is that integration is not really, it's a scam kind of, because you cannot integrate in a system that was never meant for you and that was meant to oppress you. So we have to destroy that system, you know? So we have to fight actively against white supremacy, patriarchy, and, you know, any systems of oppression. So it's a fight, and you have every right to be angry, and that's my take on this.
Maya?
I want to answer like these two questions that I've seen. One goes, let me just find it. How do you, en parenthèse, an LGBTQ plus BIPOC individual respond to cis white people asking you how they can be better allies? What would you take offense? Would you take offense? How do you feel cis people should go about learning how to be real allies? I wouldn't take offense because I think everybody's learning. I mean, I understand that some people feel like it's not their responsibility to teach, and it isn't. It's not our responsibility to teach anything or to have to, you know, repeat this all the time, because I do get that it gets very repetitive and it's very tiring. I personally would not take offense to it because I understand the person is just trying to learn, and the best way to learn about a topic like that is really to come to somebody and who lives that reality, you know, and ask them questions about it. Would I take offense? No. Again, as I said, the last part of the question, sorry, I have a really bad memory. How do people like those should go about learning how to be real allies? Really just be involved. As they've all said before, don't be all talk. Because I feel like a lot of people at this point are just doing it because it's a trend, you know, they're posting it on Instagram and all that, and it's just a trend and all. But stay informed, you know, stay updated, talk about it, you know, try to spread the awareness. Go to protests, do things, you know, put your money where your mouth is. Don't just stand there and be like, I'm an ally, but don't do anything, you know. Donate to a cause, do actual actions, try to change things, help out, really. Because there was another question that's kind of, okay, so the other question that I think is really important is, well, all the questions are really good, sorry. How do you deal with people that invalidate your experience as BIPOC person? I think at some point, I just learned to just ignore other people, and it takes a lot of work to get there, and some days it definitely still gets to me and you get really angry and upset, and you know, but nothing anyone says can take away from how you feel in a situation. And once you understand that, you know, you kind of develop this I don't care attitude almost. Not quite, because it still hurts and all that. But you just have to understand that other people's words at the end of the day are just words. And I get that words can be very harmful, but they don't take away from who you are. They don't have the right, they don't have that kind of power. They have as much power as you give them, you know, and just take that away. Don't let other people justify who you are or your experiences. I think I've spent way too much time trying to explain it to people. And I get that in some situations you can do that and you can explain that, you know, your experiences are personal to you and they don't affect everybody else. They might not be a reality to everybody. But at some point, if somebody is not able to understand that, they're not worth having a conversation with. That's it.
Go for it, Angel.
I see that somebody says, I know many people who would have voted for Trump, but they claim they are not racist and support the LGBTQ plus community. How would you respond to these Trump supporters who are avoiding these allegations on purpose? I am born in Florida. I am American. I unfortunately could not vote in this election. If not, I would be Biden train 2020. I come from a historically Republican family. I'm in the States, but I am very socially Democrat. I would say that sometimes you can't win with them, but you could tell them these are the same people that say, I can't be racist, I have a black friend. I can't be homophobic, I have a gay friend. They're using these people as pawns. They're not actually caring for these people. They're just using them as pawns for their wrong opinion, their opinions, these allegations and stuff like that. You could just tell them, you may not agree with everything he says and does, but you're saying that it wasn't a deal breaker for you. The homophobia wasn't a deal breaker for you. The racism wasn't a deal breaker for you. The misogyny wasn't a deal breaker for you. You would be fine with, so you're saying you're fine with these people. It's like saying, I can excuse racism, but I draw the line at animal cruelty. That's how it sounds to me. It's like, that's how it feels a lot of the time. Animal cruelty, sometimes I feel like some white people, not all of you guys, care about animals more than you care about Black people and Asian people and all these BIPOC people. You only care when animals are involved. I'm talking about the vegans that call out indigenous people for hunting on their own sacred ground that we stole from them. I'm so tired.
I would say that was a really good answer.
Like, you can't win. I'm pretty sure that my aunt, who's a Vietnamese lady and an immigrant, voted for Trump, but you can't win them all. She's a redneck Vietnamese woman, which is weird. But still, you can't win them all. If they were your friend, I'm sorry, they're not really your friend. If they're like, if they don't support you, they're not your friend. You can cut them off. Yeah, it's sad to lose a friend. Boo-hoo. Go to a gay club. You'll find a new friend in half an hour. Buy them a shot. It's easy.
When clubs open again.
When they open again, socially distance, or you just go Zooming. Go on Tinder or something. I don't know. Go make some friends. But you lose some friends, but you can make some friends that will be worthwhile. Like, I wonder sometimes, how many of my white friends in the States would I have lost when Trump came into power? How many of my friends would have wanted to hate crime me for being Asian? You can't win them all. You can't argue with a cult member.
Yeah, for sure. So, Binta, you want to go?
Yeah, I really want to answer the Trump question. Do you believe that Trump presidency has made racist and homophobic more comfortable? Definitely. But we don't even need to go to the states to acknowledge that. We have François Legault here. That's anyway, I'll keep my opinion on that. But that doesn't want to acknowledge that there's systemic racism here, which had made a lot of people feel comfortable to be openly Islamophobic, openly racist, openly xenophobic. And we see that phenomenon here in Quebec, and it's very, very, with the last few weeks about the debate surrounding the N-word, and he doesn't want to acknowledge systemic racism, but we have had 2 Indigenous deaths in in a month, and this is like beyond disrespectful, and this is this essence of systemic racism. And I feel like in Canada we always put in comparison to the United States, but the States, I feel like they have so much more research on racism research. You actually have numbers to work with, but here in Canada we don't have research to know exactly like how common Black people and Indigenous people die at the hands of health professionals, you know? So what are we actually comparing, you know? So yeah, I definitely feel like leaders, you know, when they do not condemn or they condone very xenophobic or like disturbing things, people really feel more comfortable, and there's a rising hatred towards each other here in Quebec, as I can sense. So
Go for it, Kat.
I just want to say thank you to everyone who's still here and listening to us. Thank you so much. This is really important, what's happening right now. I just want to acknowledge that, like, we're a panel of BIPOC students unapologetically talking about our experiences, and there aren't a lot of spaces that allow for us to do that. And so I feel very seen. I feel very hopeful, and I feel that this is necessary. And yeah, I just wanted to take a moment to say how amazing we all are, and that this is great. I wanted to answer a question to someone who asked about what we would say to students who are probably going to encounter discrimination, systemic discrimination in their educational institutions in the future, and how we've dealt with it based on our experiences. To respond to that question, I would just say that, like, self-care as a BIPOC person is, Audre Lorde would say that it is a revolutionary act, honey, because wow, we go through so much. And I would pray that students going into, especially university, because like I said, I feel like there's definitely more progress that can be done at the CEGEP level, especially at Vanier. Like, it's not all bad. I learned about, like, you know, institutionalized racism from a professor at Vanier. I didn't know the definitions for that before. So, you know, I know it sounds like we're bashing, but like I loved my CEGEP experience. It just needs to get even better than it already is. And so I would just say that I would focus more on self-care, because had I had that instinct for self-care and self-compassion when I was at CEGEP, then I would have asked for extensions to my professors when I had to, you know, give my mom my Opus card because she couldn't afford to pay for hers, and you know, she had to go to work, and she's the one who pays rent, so I kind of can't go to class today. You know, I would have acknowledged the systems working against me. Not that it makes me any less than anyone else, but I would have, at least acknowledging it would give me the courage to be able to look at someone who's in a position of power and be like, listen, I need an extension. I'm not going to be able to do this at the time that you asked me to. I'm not going to be able to do it. And not to say that we deserve favors or that we deserve handouts, but I'm just saying that at some point there needs to be an equalizer, because not everyone is working with the same cards. And so, at least for me, it would have been just focusing on self-compassion, being compassionate with myself, and taking time for myself to take care of myself. Because, you know, going to class and experiencing microaggressions and then coming home to see, you know, Black bodies dying on the news, that requires a lot of self-care. So that would be what I would say to that person.
So so I think we're we'll go to Isa, and I think we'll wrap things up after that. Unfortunately, I know there's so many other conversations, but I think this is an indication that there needs to be more space for these kinds of conversations, particularly among racialized students Absolutely, because I'm seeing most of the questions are kind of coming to the panelists for sharing of experiences and things like that. So that's what it's telling me. I'm going to shut up now. Isa.
As you said, we keep getting really good questions, and unfortunately, we can't go all of them. Maybe I'll say like an advice that can help answer a lot of the questions. For people of color, if you're part of the LGBT community, no matter what, my advice is to also conserve your energy. You can't be conserve your energy. Your mental health is precious, your physical health is precious, and your energy is the most precious. You're gonna face more obstacles than other people. As Kat said, we're not dealt the same number of cards or the cards in of itself, but you have your space, believe in yourself, surround yourself with good and healthy people who are gonna push you to be the better version of yourself. Read about it, watch movies, inspire yourself, inspire others, do your part, but don't overwhelm yourself. And it's okay to not be okay sometimes. Get yourself back up, take the time you need to, and reach out to people you can relate to. And we wish you all the best. If we're able to make it and we're here in front of you, you'll also be able to make it, and you'll find your own path that doesn't have to be necessarily like ours.
And I wanna thank everybody. Maya, did you want to get a quick word in?
Sorry, I just noticed this question that I really wanted to answer real quick. They're asking about how even though there's everything going on here with the Black communities and all that, why are we not talking about other issues around the world, like the war in Armenia and all that? And I just wanted to answer that real quick. Sadly, that is something that we notice a lot, where, you know, people tend to focus on one issue and forget that everything else is kind of, you know, we all have to stick together through everything, you know, not just, it kind of reminds me of this video of Kimberly Crenshaw, where she talks about intersectionality, and she speaks about how, you know, white women wanted to focus on the issues of just women in general and not the issues of Black women that are, you know, that are a lot more complex. And I think that sadly we still see that way too often in the world, where right now I don't want to take away from the importance of the Black Lives Matter movements or, you know, the LGBTQ community, but I feel like there's that issue of like, where when it's one event, when there's one huge event, we tend to focus on that and we forget about everything else. And we kind of just let those communities deal with their own issues, even though they were with us when we were dealing with our issues. And I just think that that's just something important that really needs to be dealt with, where, you know, we need to be together through it all, in a sense. That's just, I wanted to answer that real quick. Yes.
Well, I want to thank all the panelists for spending time with me. This is like the best part of my job, is supporting students in whichever way that I can, and getting to know them and seeing their leadership, because I'm seeing that in all of you. And I want to also thank all the attendees for staying here. And as I said before, yeah, clearly, see, I'm learning how to do that. Clearly, there's need for more of these conversations, and hopefully that's something that we'll continue to do.
Thank you very much, everyone. There's so many people left again.
Yeah.
So this is so heartwarming. So that's just what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. See, I can do this too, sort of.
So I wanted to say thank you, guys. Thank you for bearing your souls, for letting us in, for telling us how you feel. Clearly, as Maggie said, there needs to be more of these opportunities to allow students to do this. So I'm so happy you guys were here and were able to do that. And this is the end of a very long day for us. We started very early this morning, and really the students were putting a cherry on the top of a very, very long but very fruitful day. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you to all our attendees. Thank you to all of our panelists. Thank you to our moderator, Beryl Wiseman. And thank you to everyone who helped. Jennifer Joseph, Bruce Norton, David Scott are all here with me in the auditorium. I haven't been in the building for a long time, so it's kind of nice to be here, but they've all been here helping me, and I want to thank them profusely. There's a lot of other people that helped make this day happen, but I'm not gonna spend the next 10 minutes describing who helped, but you know who you are. Thank you so much. And I guess this was the beginning of a discussion that I hope continues on.
Thank you, Marlene.
Bye, thanks.